and beings that looked like living starlight emerged to greet them. Maya realized that removing a painful nail from an alien's paw had led to the most important moment in human history. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness created the largest ripples across the universe. Zephyr nuzzled against Maya's shoulder, and through the pendant, her words carried the weight of infinite possibility. Welcome to the galaxy, Maya-chan. Your people's greatest adventures are just beginning. The response came faster than anyone expected. As Fermilab security surrounded the materials science laboratory, the sky above them began to shimmer like heat waves on summer asphalt. Maya watched through the lab windows as reality seemed to bend and fold, revealing something that defied every law of physics she thought she understood. A ship materialized in the air above the facility, not landing or descending, but simply becoming visible, as if it had always been there. It was beautiful in the same way Zephyr was beautiful, with curves that seemed to follow musical principles rather than aerodynamic ones. The ship's hull reflected light in patterns that reminded Maya of the aurora borealis, shifting between colors that had no names in human language. The confluence has arrived, Zephyr said through the pendant, and Maya could feel the alien princess's overwhelming relief. But so have the preservation order. This will be decided quickly now. Through the lab windows, Maya could see confusion spreading among the human security personnel as more ships appeared in the sky. Some were graceful like the first, but others were angular and aggressive, their hulls dark and forbidding. The two fleets faced each other in the Illinois sky like chess pieces arranging for a cosmic game. Dr. Martinez, Zephyr said urgently, you and Maya need to leave. What happens next will determine the fate of both our species, but humans should not be caught in the middle of it. I'm not leaving you, Maya said firmly. Through the pendant, she could feel Zephyr's surprise and gratitude, but also her deep concern for Maya's safety. Dr. Martinez checked her phone. Security is at the main entrance, but they seem more confused than concerned. I think the appearance of alien spacecraft has somewhat overshadowed our unauthorized use of the laboratory. A new voice suddenly echoed through the pendant. Not Zephyr's musical tones, but something deeper and more resonant. Maya realized that multiple alien minds were now connected through the communication device, creating a kind of interstellar conference call. Princess Zephyr, the voice said in tones that conveyed ancient authority. You have violated direct orders from the Confluence Council by making contact with the human species. Elder Counselor Resonance, Zephyr replied formally. I have acted to prevent the genocide of an entire civilization. The humans have proven themselves worthy of consideration for membership in the galactic community. Another voice joined the conversation, this one colder and more mechanical. The human known as Sarah Chen has been interrogated extensively. Her technological breakthrough confirms that this species is advancing too rapidly to be safely integrated. They must be contained. Maya's hands clenched into fists. That was obviously a preservation order representative, discussing her aunt like she was a laboratory specimen. Through the pendant, she could feel Zephyr's anger rising to match her own. Preservation order. Commander Severity, Zephyr said, her voice taking on a dangerously musical quality. You speak of containing a species whose representative risked her own safety to help a complete stranger. Maya Chen has demonstrated exactly the kind of empathic response that makes humanity valuable to the galactic community. Maya blinked in surprise. Somehow, their entire story was being transmitted through the pendant to both alien factions. Every moment of their time together, from her first act of pulling the metal shard from Zephyr's paw to their desperate mission to repair the beacon, was being shared as evidence in an interstellar trial. One individual's actions cannot speak for an entire species, Commander Severity responded. Humans are violent, territorial, and driven by primitive emotions. Their rapid technological advancement combined with these flaws makes them unsuitable for galactic citizenship. It was Dr. Martinez who spoke up next, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent her life seeking truth through science. With respect, Commander, your argument could have been made about any species during their developmental phase. What matters is not where we are now, but our capacity for growth. The fact that Dr. Martinez could hear and participate in the alien conversation seemed to surprise everyone, including the aliens. Maya realized that the pendant's translation field must have expanded to include anyone in close proximity to Zephyr. A second human, Elder Counselor Resonance observed. Tell us, Dr. Martinez, why should the confluence risk galactic stability by allowing your species to reach the stars? Dr. Martinez looked out the window at the alien ships hovering in the sky, then at Zephyr and finally at Maya. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of someone speaking for all humanity. Because we don't just want to reach the stars, we want to understand them. Sarah Chen didn't decode your quantum signals out of aggression or conquest. She did it because she was curious about the universe and our place in it. That same curiosity led Maya to help Zephyr, even when she had no idea who or what she was helping. Maya felt a surge of pride in her species as Dr. Martinez continued. Yes, we're flawed. Yes, we have conflicts and limitations. But we also have something that might be rare in the galaxy, the ability to act with compassion toward complete strangers, even at personal cost. Through the pendant, Maya could sense a shift in the conversation among the alien minds. The Elder Counselor's thoughts carried new consideration, while Commander Severity's remained rigidly opposed. The human makes compelling arguments, Elder Counselor Resonance said slowly. But the risk remains substantial. How can we trust a species to act responsibly on a galactic scale? It was Zephyr who provided the answer. Because they've already proven they can. Maya Chen had every reason to walk away when she found me injured in the forest. No one would have blamed her for avoiding involvement with an alien being. Instead, she chose to help, and that choice led to preventing a catastrophe that would have affected billions of lives. Maya felt warmth spreading through the pendant as Zephyr continued. Elder Counselor, I have spent weeks among humans, and I have seen their potential firsthand. They are not perfect, but they are capable of extraordinary growth. They deserve the chance to prove themselves among the stars. The silence that followed seemed to stretch for eternity. Maya could feel the weight of decision pressing down on the alien minds connected through the pendant. The fate of humanity's future hung in the balance, determined by beings from worlds she'd never seen based on actions she'd taken without thinking of consequences. Finally, Elder Counselor Resonance spoke. Princess Zephyr, your testimony carries significant weight with the Council. Dr. Martinez, your arguments demonstrate the kind of wisdom we hope to see in spacefaring civilizations. And Maya Chen, your actions have spoken louder than any words could. Maya held her breath, afraid to hope. The Confluence Council hereby grants provisional membership to the human species, the Elder Counselor announced. You will be provided with guidance and support as you develop faster-than-light capabilities. However, this membership is contingent on continued demonstration of the wisdom and compassion you have shown here. Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's overwhelming joy, but she also sensed Commander Severity's dark anger. The Preservation Order representative wasn't finished fighting. This decision will lead to galactic catastrophe, Commander Severity warned. When the humans prove themselves unworthy, the blood of countless civilizations will be on the Council's hands. Perhaps, Elder Counselor Resonance replied calmly. But isolation and fear have never led to progress. Princess Zephyr and her human allies have shown us a better path. The ships in the sky began to shift and separate. The Preservation Order vessels departed first, their dark hulls vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. The Confluence ships lingered longer, and Maya could see smaller craft descending toward the laboratory. What happens now? Maya asked Zephyr. Now humanity begins its journey to the stars, Zephyr replied. Dr. Martinez will be among the first, humans to visit other worlds, serving as an ambassador and cultural liaison. Your Aunt Sarah will be released and her research officially supported by the Confluence, and you, Maya Chen, will have a choice. What kind of choice? Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's hope and affection. The choice to come with me, to see the galaxy as few humans ever will, and to help bridge the gap between our peoples. Your act of compassion in the forest was the first step in a relationship that could span centuries. Maya looked out at the alien ships, then at Dr. Martinez, who was smiling with tears in her eyes, and finally at Zephyr. The alien princess who had entered her life as a wounded stranger was now offering her the chance to be part of something larger than she'd ever imagined. "Will we be able to come back?" Maya asked. "Will I see Earth again?" "Of course," Zephyr assured her. "Earth is now part of the galactic community. There will be regular contact, cultural exchange, and opportunities for humans to explore the stars while maintaining their connection to home." Maya thought about her quiet life in the Illinois forests, her plans for college, her normal human concerns that now seemed impossibly small. Then she thought about the wonder of seeing alien worlds, of being part of humanity's first steps into a larger universe, of continuing the partnership with Zephyr that had already changed everything. "Dr. Martinez," Maya said, "tell my family I love them and tell them I'm going to see what's out there." As the Confluence ships landed and being. Working with Dr. Martinez changed everything. What would have been a desperate infiltration became a carefully coordinated scientific operation. The physicist's knowledge of Fermilab's systems and her legitimate access to the restricted areas made their task infinitely easier. "The quantum dot fabrication system will need to run for approximately 6 hours to create the crystalline matrix," Zephyr explained as they gathered in the materials science lab after hours. Dr. Martinez had arranged for them to have access to the building under the pretense of emergency equipment maintenance. "During that time, we'll be generating energy signatures that the preservation order sensors might detect." Dr. Martinez looked up from the alien beacon components that Zephyr had produced from what appeared to be nowhere. The fragments were beautiful, like pieces of crystallized starlight, but they clearly came from technology far beyond human understanding. "How sensitive are these sensors?" "Extremely. Once we begin the fabrication process, we'll have perhaps 3 hours before they triangulate our position. The beacon must be completed and activated before they arrive." Maya checked her watch. It was nearly midnight and the lab was empty except for the 3 of them. Outside, security guards made their regular rounds, but Dr. Martinez had ensured they wouldn't be disturbed. Still, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. "There's something else," Zephyr continued. "The beacon will need a massive power surge to activate, more than your facility's standard power grid can provide." Dr. Martinez frowned. "How much power are we talking about?" Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's reluctance to deliver bad news. "Approximately the same energy output as your main particle accelerator running at full capacity." That's not possible," Dr. Martinez said. "We can't just tap into the accelerator ring. The power requirements alone would trigger every safety system in the facility." Maya could see their plan falling apart before her eyes. They'd come so far, overcome so many obstacles only to be stopped by basic engineering limitations. Through the pendant, she could sense Zephyr's growing despair, and beneath that, a deeper sadness that spoke of acceptance of failure. "Wait," Maya said suddenly. "Dr. Martinez, what about the emergency power system? The one designed to contain particle beams in case of a catastrophic failure?" The physicist's eyes widened. "The magnetic containment backup system?" "Maya, that's designed to activate automatically if the main accelerator loses power. It's not something we can just turn on manually. But theoretically, if someone triggered a controlled shutdown of the main accelerator during off-peak hours, the emergency system would activate to safely dissipate the stored energy, right?" Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment, clearly running calculations in her head. "Yes, but that would require someone with administrator access to the main control systems. And it would definitely trigger an investigation. My career would be over." Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's emotional state shift to something like profound gratitude mixed with regret. "Dr. Martinez, I cannot ask you to sacrifice your life's work for the chance to save my friend and potentially prevent the destruction of human civilization." Dr. Martinez interrupted. "Sarah would do the same for me without hesitation. Besides," she added with a grim smile, "what's the point of having a career if there's no one left to appreciate our discoveries?" The next few hours were a blur of intense scientific activity. While Dr. Martinez began the delicate process of fabricating the crystalline matrix, Maya helped Zephyr assemble the other components of the beacon. The alien technology was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Materials that responded to thought as much as physical manipulation, energy conduits that seemed to bend space around themselves, and computational elements that appeared to function on principles that human science hadn't yet discovered. "Your species is closer to understanding these principles than you realize," Zephyr explained as they worked. Your Aunt Sarah's breakthrough in quantum signal interpretation represents a crucial step toward the kind of technology that powers interstellar civilizations. Is that why the preservation order sees us as such a threat? Partially. But it's also your potential for rapid advancement that concerns them. Most species take millennia to progress from basic spaceflight to faster-than-light travel. Current projections suggest humanity could make that leap within a century. Maya paused in her work. Is that bad? Not inherently, but it means your people will reach the stars while still carrying many of the conflicts and limitations that currently divide your world. The Preservation Order sees this as a recipe for galactic chaos. And what do you see? Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's complex emotions: hope, fear, determination, and something that felt like affection. I see a species that risks everything to help strangers. I see individuals who choose compassion over self-preservation. I see the kind of beings the galaxy needs more of, not fewer. At 3 a.m., Dr. Martinez announced that the crystalline matrix was ready. The quantum dot fabrication system had created something that looked like a piece of frozen music. Geometric patterns that seemed to contain light and movement, even while remaining perfectly still. Zephyr took the matrix with reverent care and began integrating it into the beacon assembly. How much longer? Maya asked, aware that every passing minute brought them closer to discovery. 20 minutes to complete the beacon assembly, then the power surge for activation, Zephyr replied. Dr. Martinez, will you be ready with the emergency power system? The physicist nodded, though Maya could see the strain of the night's events in her face. I'll trigger the controlled shutdown as soon as you give the signal. But Maya, you need to understand. Once I do this, there's no going back. Fermilab security will be here within minutes of the power surge. Maya looked around the lab where they'd spent the night working together. A human physicist, a human college student, and an alien princess, united by the shared goal of preventing catastrophe. In a few minutes, their time together would end, but what they'd accomplished would echo across the galaxy. Zephyr, Maya said, after you contact your people, what happens to you? Will you be safe? Through the pendant, she felt the alien princess's uncertainty. I don't know. My ship was destroyed and I have no way to return home. If the Confluence Council agrees to intervene, they may send a rescue mission. If not, you'll be stranded here. Yes. But Maya Chen, even if that happens, what we've accomplished tonight makes it worthwhile. We've proven that humans and my people can work together, that your species deserves a chance to join the galactic community as equals. Dr. Martinez looked up from her preparations. Zephyr, the emergency power system is armed and ready. Just say the word. Zephyr carefully positioned the completed beacon on the central workbench. The device was beautiful and alien, unlike anything that belonged in a human laboratory. As she made the final connections, the beacon began to emit a soft, harmonious tone that seemed to resonate in Maya's bones. This is it, Zephyr announced. Dr. Martinez, activate the emergency power system. The physicist's hand hovered over the control panel for a moment, then decisively entered the shutdown sequence. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Emergency lighting flickered on, and Maya could hear the deep thrum of massive power systems activating. The beacon responded instantly to the surge of energy. Light erupted from its crystalline heart, not the harsh glare of human technology, but something softer and more complex, as if the device were singing in frequencies of light that human eyes couldn't quite perceive. The harmonious tone grew stronger, building to a crescendo that seemed to reach beyond the physical world. Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's intense concentration as she guided the beacon's activation sequence. This was communication on a scale that dwarfed anything humans had achieved. A signal that would cross millions of miles in seconds, carrying with it not just information but the emotional resonance of everything they'd experienced together. It's working, Zephyr announced, and through the pendant Maya could feel her profound relief. The signal is being received. The Confluence Council is responding. In the distance, Maya could hear the sound of approaching vehicles. Security was coming, just as Dr. Martinez had predicted. But it didn't matter now. They'd succeeded. Against all odds, they'd managed to contact an alien civilization and potentially save both Zephyr's life and Earth's future. The beacon's light began to fade as its message completed transmission. In the sudden quiet that followed, The three of them looked at each other with the shared understanding of people who had just accomplished something extraordinary. "What happens now?" Maya asked. Through the pendant, she felt Zephyr's mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Now we wait. And we trust that the bonds we've forged tonight will be strong enough to change the course of history." Maya spent the early morning hours studying Fermilab's layout on her phone and formulating a plan. The facility was massive, covering thousands of acres, and security would be substantial. But she had two advantages. Her Aunt Sarah had taken her on tours of the facility several times over the years, and Zephyr could provide precise technical specifications for exactly which equipment they needed. "The main accelerator ring is underground," Maya explained to Zephyr as they hid in a grove of trees near the facility's perimeter. "But the equipment we need should be in the materials science laboratory. That's above ground, and I remember the layout from when Aunt Sarah showed me around." Through the pendant, Zephyr shared a complex technical diagram of what they were looking for. "I need access to a scanning tunneling microscope, a molecular beam epitaxy chamber, and a quantum dot fabrication system. These will allow me to create the crystalline matrix required for the beacon repair." Maya stared at the alien princess. "You know, when you say it like that, it sounds almost reasonable. But we're talking about breaking into one of the most secure scientific facilities in the country. I understand the risks, Maya-Chen. But consider the alternative." Maya nodded grimly. She'd been trying not to think about the alternative. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Fermilab has regular tours for visiting scientists and graduate students. If I can get us onto one of those tours, we might be able to separate from the group long enough to reach the materials science lab. Will they not question your presence? I'm betting they'll remember me. Aunt Sarah brought me here enough times, and I've kept in touch with some of her colleagues. Dr. Martinez in particular always said I should consider graduate school here." The plan was risky, but it was better than trying to scale fences and evade security cameras. Maya drove to the main visitor center and parked in the lot, leaving Zephyr hidden in the trailer with strict instructions to stay silent unless there was an emergency. At the visitor center, Maya's gamble paid off. Dr. Elena Martinez was indeed conducting a tour for visiting graduate students, and she remembered Maya immediately. "Maya Chen, Sarah's niece. What brings you here?" Dr. Martinez's smile was warm but tinged with concern. "We've all been worried about Sarah since she disappeared. The official story is that she's on a classified project, but that's actually why I'm here," Maya said, which was essentially true. "I'm hoping to follow in her footsteps, maybe apply for graduate programs. I was wondering if I could join your tour." Dr. Martinez didn't hesitate. "Of course. We're just starting the materials science section. Sarah would be so proud to know you're interested in her field." If only she knew, Maya thought as she joined the group of 20 graduate students. The tour began normally enough with Dr. Martinez explaining the basic principles of particle acceleration and the various experiments conducted at Fermilab. But Maya's attention was focused on memorizing security protocols and guard positions. The materials science laboratory was their third stop, and Maya felt her heart rate spike as they approached the building. Through the pendant, she could sense Zephyr's tension even at this distance. They were so close to the equipment they needed, but the lab was clearly secure. Key card access, security cameras, and at least 2 guards visible from the entrance. During the tour of the lab, Maya paid careful attention to the locations of the specific equipment Zephyr had described. The scanning tunneling microscope was in a clean room on the second floor. The molecular beam epitaxy chamber was in the basement, heavily shielded for radiation protection. And the quantum dot fabrication system was in a restricted area that their tour group wasn't allowed to enter. "This is the heart of our materials research," Dr. Martinez explained as they stood in the main lab. "We can manipulate matter at the atomic level here, creating materials with properties that don't exist in nature." Maya raised her hand. "Dr. Martinez, could I use the restroom? And maybe get a drink of water?" "Of course. There's a faculty lounge just down the hall. Take your time. We'll be in this section for another 20 minutes. Maya slipped away from the group, her heart pounding. She had a narrow window of opportunity, and everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. She made her way to the restroom first, then ducked into a supply closet to wait for the tour group to move on. When the voices faded down the corridor, Maya emerged and began systematically searching for the equipment they needed. The scanning tunneling microscope was exactly where she remembered it, but it was locked behind a security door that required a key card. She was studying the lock when she heard footsteps approaching. You know, most people who wander off from tours are just looking for a bathroom. Maya spun around to find Dr. Martinez standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Maya's mind raced, trying to come up with a plausible explanation for why she was examining restricted laboratory equipment. Dr. Martinez, I can explain. I'm sure you can, the older woman interrupted. But first, let me ask you something. Does this have anything to do with Sarah's disappearance? Maya stared at her, unsure how to respond. Through the pendant, she could sense Zephyr's growing alarm. If Dr. Martinez called security, their mission was over before it had really begun. Dr. Martinez, if I told you that Aunt Sarah was in danger, and that I needed to use some of your equipment to help her, would you believe me? The physicist studied Maya's face for a long moment. 3 weeks ago, Sarah called me in the middle of the night. She was excited about something, but also scared. She said she'd made a discovery that would change everything, but that there were people who didn't want her to share it. The next day, she disappeared. Maya's pulse quickened. What kind of discovery? She wouldn't say over the phone, but she did ask me to do something strange. She wanted me to calibrate our quantum dot fabrication system to a very specific harmonic frequency, one that doesn't correspond to any known material properties. Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's sudden intense interest. What frequency? Dr. Martinez pulled out her phone and showed Maya a series of numbers. Through their connection, Maya felt Zephyr's excitement spike. Those were the exact quantum harmonics needed to repair the beacon. Dr. Martinez, Maya said carefully, if I brought you some materials that needed to be processed using that exact frequency, and if it might help find Aunt Sarah, would you be willing to help? The physicist was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing the implications of what Maya was asking. Finally, she nodded. Sarah is like a sister to me. If there's a chance this could help her, then yes, I'll help. Even if I told you the materials were unusual? Maya, I've been a physicist for 30 years. I've learned that the universe is far stranger than most people imagine. Whatever you're involved in, if Sarah left instructions for processing materials at those specific frequencies, then it's important. Maya made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Martinez, I need you to meet someone who can explain this better than I can. But I have to warn you, what you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about the world. 20 minutes later, Maya was leading Dr. Martinez across the parking lot toward the horse trailer. Through the pendant, she'd explained the situation to Zephyr, who had agreed that they needed Dr. Martinez's help if they were going to succeed. Maya, Dr. Martinez said nervously, what exactly am I about to meet? Someone who needs our help, Maya replied. Someone who represents humanity's best hope for the future. She opened the trailer door and Dr. Martinez got her first look at an alien princess. To her credit, the physicist didn't faint or scream. She simply stared for a long moment, then said, well, Sarah always said her niece would do something extraordinary someday. Through the pendant, Zephyr's musical voice reached them both. Dr. Martinez, I am honored to meet you. Your sister by choice spoke of you often during our conversations. Dr. Martinez blinked. You know Sarah? You've spoken with her? Yes. She is currently being held by members of my species who believe humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. We have very little time to prevent a catastrophe that would set your civilization back thousands of years. The physicist was quiet for a moment, processing what she'd just heard. Then, with the practical mindset that had made her a successful scientist, she asked, what do you need me to do? The first challenge came immediately. Zephyr was the size of a small horse, injured, and definitely not something Maya could walk into a gas station with. They needed transportation, supplies, and a plan that wouldn't get them both captured or killed before they reached Fermilab. Can you change your appearance? Maya asked as they made their way back through the forest toward her grandmother's cabin. Shapeshift or use some kind of disguise technology? Through the pendant, she felt Zephyr's rueful amusement. I am afraid not. My people are not shapeshifters, and my emergency gear was destroyed with my ship. I am, as you humans say, stuck in this form. Maya's mind raced through possibilities as they walked. Her grandmother's old pickup truck could handle the weight, but only if Zephyr could fit in the bed and stay hidden. The trip to Fermilab would take at least 4 hours. Maybe more if they had to take back roads to avoid attention. When they reached the cabin, Maya was relieved to see her grandfather's old horse trailer still sitting behind the barn. It was rusty and hadn't been used in years, but it was large enough to accommodate Zephyr and could be hitched to the pickup truck. "Wait here," Maya told Zephyr, gesturing to the tree line. "Let me get this set up." She spent the next hour preparing for their journey. The horse trailer needed new tires and a working electrical connection, but her grandfather had taught her basic mechanics before he died. While she worked, Maya could feel Zephyr's presence through the pendant, a warm, steady consciousness that somehow made the impossible task ahead seem manageable. She loaded the trailer with supplies, first aid materials, water, some of her grandmother's old blankets, and food for herself. She had no idea what Zephyr ate, but when she asked through the pendant, the response was both surprising and convenient. "My people are photosynthetic," Zephyr explained. "We derive energy from sunlight and can supplement with certain plant materials. Your Earth vegetation is compatible with my biology." "Solar-powered aliens," Maya muttered as she gathered an armload of fresh grass and leaves. "Why am I not surprised?" By evening, they were ready to travel. Zephyr settled into the trailer with obvious discomfort. The confined space was clearly not designed for a being used to vast open territories and star-filled skies. But she endured it without complaint, understanding the necessity. Maya had planned their route carefully, avoiding major highways and sticking to rural roads where a young woman driving an old truck with a horse trailer wouldn't attract attention. The pendant allowed them to communicate even through the metal walls of the trailer, and as they drove through the darkness, Zephyr began to share more about her world and her people. "The confluence of worlds is not a government as humans understand it," Zephyr explained. "It's more like a philosophical alliance of species who believe in cooperation and mutual growth. We share knowledge, resources, and protection, but each world maintains its sovereignty." "And the Preservation Order?" "They are older, more traditional. They believe that allowing young species to develop too quickly leads to galactic instability and war. They point to several civilizations that destroyed themselves shortly after achieving faster-than-light travel as evidence for their position." Maya navigated around a particularly sharp curve, her headlights cutting through the rural Illinois darkness. "Have they done this before? Intervened to stop a species from developing?" The pause before Zephyr's answer told Maya everything she needed to know. "Yes, 7 times in the past 2,000 years. Sometimes they triggered natural disasters. Sometimes they introduced diseases that targeted neural development, reducing a species' intelligence to pre-technological levels. They always made it appear natural. That's genocide." "Yes. But they would argue it's necessary genocide, preventing even larger catastrophes. The philosophy is not without merit. Young species with advanced technology and limited wisdom are dangerous. But I believe your people deserve the chance to prove themselves capable of growth." They drove in thoughtful silence for a while, each lost in their own concerns. Maya couldn't stop thinking about her Aunt Sarah, imprisoned somewhere by aliens who saw humanity as a threat to be neutralized. The weight of responsibility was overwhelming. Millions of years of human development and 8 billion lives potentially hanging on her ability to help Zephyr complete her mission. Around midnight, they hit their first serious obstacle. Maya saw the roadblock ahead and pulled over immediately, her heart pounding. 3 black SUVs were parked across the highway, and figures in dark clothing were inspecting every vehicle. They were too far away to see clearly, but Maya had a sinking feeling these weren't human authorities. "Preservation Order agents," Zephyr confirmed through the pendant. "They've expanded their search grid faster than I anticipated. Can we go around?" "Possibly, but they will have sensors that can detect my biosignature from several kilometers away. If we get too close to any of their checkpoints, they will find me." Maya studied the roadblock through her rearview mirror, her mind working frantically. They needed a distraction, something that would draw the agents away long enough for them to slip past. Or better yet, they needed to avoid the roads entirely. "How sensitive are these sensors?" she asked. "They're designed to detect my specific genetic markers, but they have limited range underground or underwater." "Why?" Maya smiled grimly and pulled out her phone to check GPS maps of the area. "Because I just remembered something my grandfather taught me about rural Illinois. This whole area is crisscrossed with old drainage tunnels and storm sewers. Some of them are big enough to drive a truck through. It took them 2 hours to find the right access point and old maintenance. road that led to a massive storm drainage system built in the 1960s. The tunnels were exactly as Maya remembered from childhood stories, large enough to accommodate their truck and trailer, though the ride was bumpy and nerve-wracking. They emerged from the tunnel system 15 miles past the roadblock, muddy and shaken but undetected. Through the pendant, Maya could feel Zephyr's amazement at the human ingenuity that had created the tunnel network, and her growing respect for Maya's resourcefulness. "Your species' relationship with your environment is fascinating," Zephyr observed as they continued toward Fermilab. "You modify your world to suit your needs in ways that are both destructive and remarkably creative." "We're complicated," Maya agreed. "But that's what makes us human." "Indeed. And it's why I believe humanity deserves a chance to join the galactic community, rather than be relegated to pre-technological status." As dawn approached, Maya could see the distinctive outline of Fermilab in the distance. The particle accelerator facility looked peaceful in the early morning light, its buildings and experimental apparatus spread across thousands of acres of Illinois prairie. Somewhere in those buildings was the equipment they needed to save Earth. Now they just had to break in, repair an alien beacon, and contact a civilization millions of miles away without getting caught by either human security or alien bounty hunters. "Still think we can do this?" Maya asked. Through the pendant, she felt Zephyr's steady confidence. "Maya-Chen, I have seen you remove a metal shard from an alien's paw without hesitation, plan an escape route through underground tunnels, and drive through the night to help someone you barely know. If any human can accomplish this mission, it is you." Maya pulled into a rest area a few miles from Fermilab and cut the engine. In a few hours, she would either be the person who helped save humanity's future among the stars, or she would be responsible for the failure that led to Earth's destruction. But looking back at the trailer that held an alien princess who had placed her trust in human compassion, Maya found her resolve strengthening. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Maya stared at the alien princess, her mind struggling to process everything that had happened in the past hour. The pendant around her neck hummed softly, creating a bridge between two entirely different forms of consciousness, and through it she could sense Zephyr's growing urgency about something. "How do you know my name?" Maya asked, though part of her suspected the answer would only lead to more questions. Zephyr settled carefully onto the forest floor, favoring her injured paw. Through the pendant's translation, her response came with layers of meaning that spoken language couldn't convey. "Your species has been watched for some time, Maya-Chen. Not with malicious intent, but with hope. Your people are unique in ways you do not yet understand." "Watched by who?" "Your people?" "By many peoples. The galaxy is far more crowded than your scientists suspect, and Earth sits at a crossroads of trade routes that span thousands of light years. Most civilizations have protocols about contact with developing species, but your world presents a special case." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the forest shade. "Special how?" Through the pendant, she sensed Zephyr choosing her words carefully. "Most species develop either great technological capability or great empathic capacity, but rarely both. Your people are unusual in that you have the potential for both paths. Some of us believe this makes humanity incredibly valuable as potential allies and mediators. Others see you as a threat that should be contained or eliminated before you develop faster than light travel." The weight of that statement settled over Maya like a heavy blanket. "And which camp are you in?" "I was in the first camp," Zephyr said, and Maya caught the past tense. "I believed in humanity's potential. I advocated for formal contact, for bringing your people into the galactic community as equals. But recent events have made my position politically complicated." Maya leaned forward, sensing there was much more to this story. "What kind of recent events?" Zephyr was quiet for a long moment, and through the pendant, Maya could feel the alien princess's internal struggle. Finally, she began to speak, and her words carried the weight of personal tragedy. 3 Earth months ago, a human deep space probe intercepted and decoded one of our communication arrays. This was not supposed to be possible with your current technology level, but one of your scientists, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, developed breakthrough algorithms that could interpret our quantum-entangled signals. Maya's blood ran cold. "Chen is my mother's maiden name. Sarah Chen is my aunt." "I know," Zephyr said gently. "Dr. Sarah Chen is your father's sister, and she is currently being held by a faction of my people who believe humanity represents an existential threat to galactic stability. They used her breakthrough as evidence that humans are developing too quickly, that contact must be prevented at all costs. The forest seemed to spin around Maya as the implications hit her. Her Aunt Sarah, the brilliant physicist who had always encouraged Maya's love of science, was being held prisoner by aliens, and somehow Maya had just stumbled into the middle of an interstellar political crisis. Is she alive? Maya asked, dreading the answer. Yes, but her situation is precarious. The faction holding her calls themselves the Preservation Order. They believe that advanced civilizations have a duty to prevent younger species from reaching the stars until they've proven themselves worthy. Your aunt's discovery threatens their entire philosophy, so they've classified her as a Class 7 threat to galactic stability. What does that mean exactly? Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's deep sadness. It means they intend to use her knowledge to justify a preemptive strike against Earth. They plan to trigger what will appear to be a natural disaster, a solar flare or asteroid impact, that will set your civilization back several thousand years, without appearing to be alien intervention. Maya shot to her feet, her hands clenched into fists. They can't do that. Earth has 8 billion people. They can and they will unless the Confluence Council can be convinced to intervene. That's why I was coming to Earth. I had arranged to meet secretly with a human representative to negotiate a peaceful first contact. But my ship was attacked as I entered your solar system. Attacked by who? Agents of the Preservation Order. They couldn't risk me completing my mission. My ship was destroyed and I barely escaped in a life pod. I've been hiding in these forests for 2 weeks, trying to repair my emergency beacon while avoiding their search parties. Maya looked around the peaceful forest with new eyes, imagining alien hunters moving through the trees. Are we safe here? For now. They've been searching farther south, near the impact site of my pod, but it's only a matter of time before they expand their search grid. I estimate we have perhaps 48 hours before they find me. And then what happens? Zephyr's emotional state through the pendant was grim. If they capture me, I will be charged with violating contact protocols and sentenced to mind dissolution. Your aunt will be transferred to a research facility where they will extract everything she knows about human technological development, and the order to destroy Earth's capability for space travel will be given within the week. Maya began pacing, her mind racing. Okay, so we need to get you to your people, the good guys. How do we do that? The Confluence maintains a monitoring station in your outer solar system, but it's heavily shielded and nearly impossible to detect with human technology. I need to activate my emergency beacon to contact them, but the beacon was damaged in the crash. I've been trying to repair it, but I lack the proper tools. What kind of tools? Through the pendant, Maya received a complex technical specification that her brain somehow understood. Despite having no background in alien technology, the beacon needed rare Earth elements arranged in a specific crystalline matrix, powered by a controlled fusion reaction, and calibrated using quantum harmonics that could only be generated by. You need a particle accelerator, Maya said, amazement in her voice. And access to some very specialized equipment. Yes, the nearest facility that could provide what I need is approximately 200 kilometers from here. Your species calls it the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. Maya laughed, though there was no humor in it. You want to break into Fermilab to fix an alien beacon so you can call for help to save Earth from other aliens? And we have to do it in the next 2 days while avoiding alien bounty hunters. That is an accurate summary. Yes, this is insane. Through the pendant, Maya felt Zephyr's agreement tinged with desperate hope. Yes, it is insane. But Maya Chen, you have already demonstrated something that gives me great faith in humanity's potential. What's that? When you saw a being in pain, a complete stranger from another world, you didn't hesitate to help. You asked for nothing in return. You simply acted because it was right to act. That kind of instinctive compassion is rare in the galaxy. It's exactly the quality that makes humanity special. Maya looked down at the alien princess, this magnificent being whose fate was now somehow intertwined with her own. The pendant around her neck thrummed with warmth, and she realized that she'd already made her decision. All right, she said, let's go save the world. Maya took a deep breath and wrapped her fingers around the protruding end of the metal shard. The surface was surprisingly warm and seemed to vibrate slightly under her touch as if it were alive. The creature beneath her remained perfectly still, but she could feel the tension in its powerful muscles as it prepared for the pain that was coming. On 3, she whispered, though she doubted the creature understood counting. 1, 2. She pulled on 2 instead of 3, knowing from experience that anticipation often made pain worse. The metal shard came free with less resistance than she'd expected, sliding out cleanly with a soft sound like wind through leaves. The creature's entire body went rigid for a moment, and it released a sound that was part whimper, part something else entirely. Something that reminded Maya of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Blood welled up from the wound, but it wasn't the bright red she expected. Instead, it was a deep blue-silver color that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. Maya stared in fascination for a moment before her practical nature kicked in. Blood was blood regardless of color, and this wound needed attention. She quickly pulled off her flannel shirt, leaving her in just a tank top, and tore it into strips. The creature watched her movements with those incredible amber eyes, and Maya was struck again by the intelligence she saw there. This wasn't the simple awareness of a wounded animal. This was the gaze of someone who understood exactly what was happening and why. As gently as she could, Maya began cleaning the wound with a strip of fabric. The creature flinched slightly but made no attempt to pull away. If anything, it seemed to be helping, adjusting its position to give her better access to the injury. The wound was clean, thankfully. The metal shard had gone straight through without tearing or creating jagged edges. "You're being very brave," Maya said softly as she worked. "Much braver than most of the animals I've helped. Then again, you're not really just an animal, are you?" The creature made that musical sound again, and this time Maya was certain it was a response. The tonal patterns seemed deliberate, almost like language. She found herself wishing she had her phone to record the sounds, but she'd left it back at the cabin. Besides, who would believe her even if she had proof? As she bandaged the wound with strips of her shirt, Maya noticed something strange happening. The creature's fur around the injury site seemed to be changing color, shifting from its normal silver blue to a warmer, almost golden tone. At first she thought it might be a sign of infection or distress, but the creature seemed calm, even relaxed. "There," she said, tying off the makeshift bandage. "That should help for now, but you're going to need proper medical attention. I wish I knew where to take you for that." The creature struggled to its feet, testing the injured paw carefully. It could bear some weight on it, which was encouraging. Maya stood as well, brushing dirt and leaves from her jeans. She expected the creature to simply walk away now that it was free. But instead it did something that made her heart skip a beat. It approached her slowly, lowering its massive head until it was level with hers. This close, Maya could see details that took her breath away. The creature's fur wasn't just beautiful. It seemed to contain tiny points of light like stars scattered across a night sky. Its breath was warm against her face and carried a scent like ozone and wildflowers. Then, very gently, the creature pressed its forehead against hers. The moment their skin made contact, Maya's world exploded with sensation. Images flashed through her mind. Not her own memories, but something else entirely. She saw vast ships moving between stars, cities of impossible beauty built from materials that sang in harmonious tones, beings like the one before her living in harmony with technology that seemed more like magic. But she also saw darker images, ships burning in space, cities falling silent, the desperate flight of refugees across impossible distances, and through it all she felt the creature's emotions as if they were her own. Gratitude so profound it brought tears to her eyes, relief that transcended anything she'd ever experienced, and something else. Something that felt like recognition. The connection lasted only seconds, but when it ended, Maya staggered backward, her mind reeling from what she'd experienced. The creature watched her with those amber eyes, and now she understood something crucial. This wasn't just any alien being, this was someone important. Someone whose survival mattered in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. "Who are you?" she whispered. The creature moved away from her and began doing something that defied everything Maya thought she knew about wolves, alien or otherwise. It started manipulating the strange metal shard she'd removed from its paw, somehow reshaping it with just its uninjured paw and what looked like focused concentration. The metal responded as if it were clay, flowing and reforming under the creature's touch. Within minutes, the creature had crafted something that looked like a pendant or medallion. The surface was covered with intricate patterns that seemed to move and shift when Maya looked at them directly. The creature approached her again and, with careful precision, placed the pendant around her neck. The metal chain formed itself as the pendant settled against her chest, warm and strangely comforting. The moment the pendant touched her skin, Maya understood. Somehow she knew that this was more than just a gift. It was a communication device, a beacon, and a promise all rolled into one. Through the pendant, she could sense the creature's emotions more clearly, and she realized with growing amazement that she was beginning to understand its musical language. "Thank you," the creature said, and Maya heard the words as clearly as if they'd been spoken in English. Though she knew the sounds it made were still those same musical tones, the pendant was translating somehow, creating understanding where none had existed before. "You're welcome," Maya replied, not sure if her words would translate back, but the creature's posture suggested they did. "I am Zephyr," the creature continued, and the name carried with it connotations of wind and freedom and vast distances traveled. "I am—" Your word would be princess, though that is not quite accurate. "I am the heir select to the confluence of worlds." Maya's legs suddenly felt weak. She'd just rescued alien royalty from what amounted to a hiking accident. The scope of what had just happened began to sink in, and she found herself sitting down hard on a fallen log. "You're really not from around here," she said, which seemed like the understatement of the century. Zephyr made a sound that the pendant translated as laughter, though it was unlike any laughter Maya had ever heard. It was musical and bright, like water cascading over stones. "No," Zephyr agreed. "I am very much not from around here. But Maya Chen, I believe you may be exactly where you need to be." The fact that the alien princess knew her name should have been more shocking. But after everything else that had happened, Maya found she was developing a tolerance for the impossible. What did surprise her was the note of something like destiny in Zephyr's voice, as if this meeting hadn't been the accident it appeared to be. Maya Chen had always been drawn to the forest paths behind her grandmother's cabin. The 60-year-old pine trees whispered secrets in languages she couldn't understand, and the morning mist carried scents that reminded her of stories her grandmother used to tell about creatures from distant worlds. Today felt different, though. The usual bird songs had fallen silent, and even the insects seemed to hold their breath. She pushed through a particularly dense thicket of undergrowth, her hiking boots crunching softly on fallen leaves. The path here was barely visible, more of a game trail than anything humans might use. Maya had been following it for 20 minutes when she heard it, a low, keening sound that made her heart clench with recognition of pain. The sound came again, weaker this time, and Maya quickened her pace. She'd grown up around animals, had volunteered at wildlife rehabilitation centers since she was 12. That was definitely the cry of something in distress. She followed the sound deeper into the woods, pushing aside branches that seemed to reach out and grab at her jacket. In a small clearing ahead, Maya stopped dead in her tracks. What she saw challenged everything she thought she knew about the world. A creature lay on its side beneath a massive oak tree, and it was unlike anything in any biology textbook she'd ever studied. At first glance, it looked like a wolf, but this was no ordinary canine. The creature was easily the size of a small horse, with fur that seemed to shimmer between silver and deep blue, depending on how the filtered sunlight hit it. Its limbs were longer and more graceful than any earthly wolf, and its head was broader, more intelligent somehow. But what struck Maya most were its eyes. When the creature turned its massive head toward her, she found herself looking into eyes that held unmistakable intelligence. They were a deep amber color, almost golden, and in them she saw not the wild panic of a trapped animal, but something that looked remarkably like resigned dignity. This was a being that understood its situation and had accepted whatever fate awaited it. The creature made no aggressive moves as Maya approached. Instead, it seemed to study her with the same curiosity she felt. Its breathing was labored, and Maya could see why. One of its front paws was pinned beneath what appeared to be a section of twisted metal, unlike anything she'd seen before. The metal had an oily, iridescent surface that seemed to shift colors as she watched. More concerning was the fact that a long, sharp piece of this strange material had pierced completely through the creature's paw, emerging on the other side in a way that must have been causing excruciating pain. Maya's grandmother had always taught her that suffering was universal. That pain looked the same in every living thing's eyes, regardless of species. Looking at this magnificent creature now, she saw that truth reflected back at her. The being was clearly in agony, but it bore that pain with a stoicism that spoke of intelligence and perhaps even nobility. She approached slowly, speaking in the same gentle tones she'd used with injured deer and trapped raccoons over the years. The creature's ears, which were slightly pointed and more mobile than a wolf's, swiveled toward her voice. It made a soft sound, almost like a whimper, but somehow more complex. If Maya didn't know better, she'd have sworn it was trying to communicate with her. "Hey there, beautiful," she said softly, dropping to her knees a few feet away from the trapped creature. "That looks like it hurts pretty bad, doesn't it?" The creature's response surprised her. It lifted its head slightly and made a series of soft sounds that definitely seemed like an attempt at communication. The sounds had an almost musical quality, rising and falling in patterns that suggested meaning. Maya found herself wishing desperately that she could understand what it was trying to tell her. She examined the situation more carefully. The piece of metal that had pierced the creature's paw was about as thick as her thumb, and roughly 8 inches long. It appeared to be some kind of advanced alloy, completely smooth except for the sharp point that had done the damage. The metal felt warm to the touch when she carefully reached out to examine it, and it hummed very faintly, as if it contained some kind of energy source. The creature watched her every movement with those intelligent amber eyes. When Maya accidentally brushed against its fur while examining the metal shard, she was surprised by how soft it was. The texture was unlike anything she'd felt before, somehow finer than the finest silk, but with an underlying strength that suggested it could provide protection from harsh environments. "This is going to hurt," Maya told the creature, meeting its gaze directly. "But I think I can get this out of you. You're going to have to trust me, though. Can you do that?" To her amazement, the creature seemed to nod. It was a subtle movement but unmistakable. This being understood her, at least on some level. It settled its great head down on the forest floor and seemed to brace itself for what was coming. Maya had helped remove foreign objects from animals before, but never anything quite like this. The metal shard appeared to have gone cleanly through the paw without hitting any major bones, which was fortunate, but the material was clearly not of earthly origin, and she had no idea what kind of complications that might create. She positioned herself carefully, getting the best grip possible on the protruding end of the shard. The creature's breathing deepened and it made that musical sound again, this time in a pattern that sounded almost like reassurance. Whether it was trying to reassure itself or her, Maya couldn't tell. "Okay," she whispered, her heart pounding with the weight of the moment. "Here we go." The forest around them seemed to hold its breath as Maya prepared to help this mysterious being. She had no idea that this single act of compassion was about to change not just her life, but the fate of 2 entire worlds. All she knew was that something beautiful and intelligent was in pain, and she had the power to help. The creature's golden eyes met hers one more time, and in that gaze, Maya saw complete trust. Whatever this being was, wherever it had come from, it was placing its faith in her human hands and her human heart.